what is the reason for having this special live streaming event. And recently, I was inspired to begin some live stream sessions in which the purpose of these is to show you exactly how to identify market turning points. Identify market turning points in a way that a person could use that information to trade or to enter and exit trades at the ideal time that gives a person more of the maximum amount of profit from getting a higher number of winning trades and winning trades that are larger than your losing trades. And a lot of people have expressed to me that they have been very frustrated with their experiences in trading, and it's because they bought products, they have paid for training, and the people who are training are giving them information that's not really helping them. There are okay. Hello. And if this is something that is helpful to you, just click like and make sure you put your comments below, because I will be able to go back and read these and answer your comments or your questions. And even after this, I can go back and answer some of your questions. Now, a lot of people have told me that they bought courses, and sometimes some of my personal associates and friends and so forth told me I paid $5,000 for my first training course, and then I paid another $3,000 for this other course, and then they bought other courses and other courses. And then people have also paid for products, software. I'll go into this in some other session, but let me just say for now, if you're just getting started in trading, or if you've been in trading for a long time, purchasing software is kind of a scam, because it's the idea of all these different products is that instead of you knowing how to trade, just get this product, and then you don't have to have any skill. You don't have to know when the market is turning. You don't have to have any you don't have to have any special knowledge or skill that you've developed on your own. You can just buy this product, and then that will do the work for you. You know, it sounds kind of appealing, and a lot of people are attracted to that type of thing. And that's why it is a scam, is because people want that. And so marketers are willing to provide something that people want, and then those things are designed to keep you entertained while you're playing around with trading and wasting years in some cases, and wasting thousands of dollars in your own capital that you lose, and in also buying the products and the training and all these different things. And it can be very frustrating, especially if a person really had an intention to learn how to trade, and they kind of put their life on the line, that invested their family's capital and everything that you have. People have invested so much time, and then ended up very disappointed. So anyway, what I was going to do is I'm going to show you how to trade. And I think the best way to do that is just to get right into it and show you exactly how to identify when the market is turning. So that would be, in fact, we can do that right now, because I see We've had some excellent trades here. And what I want to do is to show people, first of all, you really need to open your mind, because if you have any block like, oh, that doesn't work, or whatever it is, first of all, I want you to kind of relax, take some deep breaths in, and then use your natural ability to detect if someone is telling you the truth. Can you detect when someone is telling you the truth versus when someone is giving you a big pile of BS that has some kind of an ulterior motive, or often trying to sell you something that won't do you any good? So do that right now. Just relax and ask yourself, is this something that might help me in my trading? Do you think it might help you? Well, I guess it depends, right? So let me just show you this. If I have often mentioned that learning to read the markets is a lot like learning to read a language, and not necessarily a foreign language. Just like when a person is going to first grade, they are going to learn how to read and write the alphabet. So maybe someone will tell you, this is the letter B, and this is the letter O, and you're like, well, what do you mean by B, and what do you mean by O? And those are just concepts that don't have any meaning at that time. Well, now that you're an adult and you already know how to read and so forth, that just comes naturally, and you do it unconsciously. You don't even have to think about it because it's an unconscious thing. So you can pick up a book and just start reading it. Pretty amazing thing. But in the beginning, somebody's trying to tell you, if somebody was a real difficult student, and the teacher said, okay, class, this is the letter B, and you're like, what do you mean by B? What do you mean by that? It doesn't have any meaning. But people have already gotten to the point where they understand that there is such a thing as a alphabet, and it's used to spell things so that you can read things. And that's the same way with the market. So markets form shapes and patterns that can be read. So the problem is in trading that people's minds have been conditioned to look at the wrong things and to approach pretty much everything in the wrong way. So if you saw a shape and it looked like this, what would you think about whether you should enter a trade? And I'm serious. Let me see if I can move that over. If you saw the shape on a chart, would it convey anything to you? Does that mean anything? Well, if it doesn't mean anything to you, you've been looking at the wrong thing. And this is part of what I have been explaining in our previous workshop. I covered the 7 things that are used to identify if the market is turning. So a lot of us, we can look at this and just see that picture and say, hey, the market is turning, because we can just, that's the letter, that's the word, you can see it, that's a trend, that's a correction. But it takes time for people to even be able to recognize that. So The very first thing in trading that a person needs to learn how to read is the difference between impulsive and corrective price action. If you can't identify those two things, then you would have to just be completely blind and lost in trading, and it doesn't matter how many freaking indicators or how much software or whatever it is that you're using. If you can't identify those things, there's no indicator or software that would be more valuable than just looking at the price action itself and reading, knowing the type of price action and whether it was going to continue or whether it was going to turn. Make any sense so far? I'm going to show you some other things now on some live charts. So if you ever saw something that looked like this, would that mean anything to you? Okay, look at it carefully, because I just entered a short, and to me that's just like the most obvious thing. How could a person not see that? If you don't know how to read the language of the market, you would probably be confused. Let me show you what I mean. Have you ever seen a pattern and it looked like this? I mean, every time the market does this, and it does it over and over, and it never stops doing it, that's a short. And that means that the market normally is going to go down like that. And that would be very profitable if you could identify an entry that happened to be that point. What if you entered a trade and it wasn't that point? Well, that wouldn't be good. So the quicker that a person could accept this truth and could see that this is true, the better off you'll be, because as soon as you realize things are true, then you're going to be able to apply those truths to how you would trade. So, can you see that shape here? And then can you see the corresponding shape there? And then if so, all you would have to do is to refine that visual skill to be able to determine if something was turning or not turning. And don't you think? Let me know if you're following this, because a lot of people, they could, perhaps maybe they don't get it. Do you see what I'm talking about? Because if you do, you could start making money in trading like I'm doing right now. I mean, this is I'm just doing this over and over again. So let me show you some other things that are going on right now that are today was a really exciting day in trading, and there are things that are happening. Can you see this shape right here? I mean, if a person had a chart and then they went to a certain time frame and their eyes were directed at that chart, I would assume that they could see the chart. But one person can look at this chart and see things, and another person might not be able to see the same thing. Or maybe they just don't believe what they're seeing. They don't have the ability to see the meaning of it. And a lot of people just think that it's random. They don't see the meaning. If you took some handwriting and showed it to some native person from deep jungle in New Guinea, they may have never seen handwriting, and when they look at it and they just say, this doesn't mean anything. But another person could look at it and say, oh, I see what this means, and it's telling you this, 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 and they would read it and they would know exactly what it's saying. Well, that's the way it is with the market. So let me know if you're starting to get what I'm talking about, because I am serious. This is how I am able to make money over and over again. And all the people that I've interviewed, as you can see, there are many people that I've interviewed and discuss with them their experience with trading, what they did before, how they got to where they are now, and how they were able to get to the point where they could master trading and start to see consistent increase. They all are doing this. And so if you can't see it, or you don't know what it is that I'm talking about, I can show you that. And then it's something that also would take some time to practice and learn even more. But doesn't it make sense? You could look at it and see it right now, and you can see what I'm talking about. You would see why someone would enter a trade. So on the chart that we were just looking at of the Euro Aussie as an example, there was kind of a shape, and maybe it kind of looks like this. Anyway, the shape on that chart, I could tell that the trend that is inside of this circle on the real chart, which we can go back and look at it on a real chart. This is an illustration of what I'm talking about, and it's very important. Some people look at it and go, that's just a line, that doesn't mean anything, it's just chicken scratching. Well, you could put some lines on here, and some people would be able to detect that it had some kind of a meaning, right? And some people might look at it and maybe they can't detect. They could put their eyes and direct them at the shape, but they don't see the meaning in it. Or even more so, if we put these shapes on here, and somebody might just say, that's just a bunch of lines, it's just chicken scratch, it doesn't mean anything. But another person could look at it and say, oh, that means something, that's cat, C-A-T, cat. Well, it's the same with the market. Some people can read what it's doing and some people can't. And the ability to read the market is how you can know if you should enter a trade. Make sense? Wow, what a novel and revolutionary idea. And a lot of people, maybe they didn't realize that before. That's why they had all these things on their charts that don't have anything to do with whether the market is turning or not. They put all these things on their chart, and it's designed to take their attention and give them something to focus on. So, you can put all these lines on here and stuff, and that gives you something you can look at, and you can put all kinds of things on there. But most of what people are doing doesn't have anything to do with whether the market is turning or not. What does have something to do is if you can detect and identify these shapes. And this may be a kind of classic example where maybe you could look at charts and you might see something like this, but maybe you would see some things that are not as ideally this particular shape. And I mean, for me, this is like the most obvious shape. It's just like, saying CAT, or trend, correction, end of a correction, enter. every time that happens, I enter and then I make profit. But other people might be looking at it and they don't know what I'm talking about. And maybe they've been looking at charts for 30 or 40 years. And in many cases, there are professional traders, and they would kind of get sometimes angry or indignant if I can do this. And, oh, you can't do that. Or, people have all kinds of belief systems that would stop them from being able to do that. So just check and see if you understand what I'm talking about, that these shapes have meanings. Because the problem that has happened is that like the study of these shapes is called different. The market does this. The market does this. So let me go back to the real chart and I'll show you. So see this stuff on the chart? Did the market do that? So it's true that the market did that, right? So if I drew a picture of that, that would still be true. In case you wanted to deny that it's true and say the market did not do this. The stuff on this chart, the market did not do that. Okay, that would be kind of stupid, right? Because the market did do this, and it's doing it every day. Some people can see it and read it, and some people can't. If you're one of the people who can see it and read it, then you can make a lot of money from that. And it's very fascinating. I have one time I did some research and I was trying to find out who are the greatest traders in the world, and always looking to see what is it that they're doing, if they're willing to say what they're doing. And there was this one site that had a list of a whole bunch of people who were considered the greatest traders, and you have people like Ray Dalio, and what's the guy's name? Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. The guy who later I found out that he donated $100 million or something like that to the New York Institute to found a department in neuroscience. And that's just really fascinating because, neuroscience, psychology, subconscious mind, NLP, those are some of the things that I'm studying also, because that's what I have learned, that even if you do learn what to look for in trading, and some people might be better than others as far as their gift of their skill in reading charts, but some people, even with just a minimal amount of skill, are able to get profit because they master their subconscious mind. And a lot of people don't accept that this is what's happening. And that's not going to be the subject of this video right now, but I am going to mention that is true. And no matter if you do any research, if you look at anybody who is successful, and if you look at the most successful traders in the world, you will find that they do this. And that's why this guy donated all that money to found a neuroscience department of the New York Institute. And his name will come to me in just a moment. He's a very famous among people who know the most successful traders who have ever existed. And one time I was looking at that, and there were all these people, and I saw that several of them mentioned that they were using chaos theory as that's what they're using to trade. And so I started looking more, what is chaos theory? And then it's very similar to Elliott Wave. And I was watching a video today with Bill Williams explaining chaos theory, and I notice on their website that they're using Elliott wave, and chaos theory is just the fractal theory of a different way of explaining what the market does. See, the market does this, and you could look at it and you could explain what it's doing. So anything that has to do with understanding what the market does and seeing it, is that clear? Anything that has to do with understanding and seeing what the market does might help in trading. But a lot of people have their chart set up in a way that they can't see it. So we were talking about this right here, and this was identified as a short, and I went short on that, and I determined that at the very minimum it should go down for 2 days. And here it is on the Aussie dollar. Let me show, in addition to this, and actually we've been stalking this for several days thinking that this is going to happen, but it wasn't quite ready, and there's still issues with the US-China trade agreements. Here we go. This is the one I like right here. I went short on this, and can you see it? I mean, okay, look at this chart and see if you can see it. That's one way I could help to explain what that is. Look at this chart, and can you see this chart? What's another way I could try to explain that? Now, to the people who want to make money, this is so fascinating. So, I mean, to the people who are like, oh, this is boring. You know, a lot of people might just find a way to cut off their mind so that they can't learn this, so that they would make sure that they won't be able to trade. And one of the ways you can do that is just say, this is boring. What's boring about it? This is so freaking exciting. If you're not excited, there must be something wrong with you, right? Because this is super, incredibly exciting. I mean, to me, I find it, well, if you saw what I meant in terms of in an account where people are trading this, you would have to agree that's pretty darn exciting. On a day-to-day basis, the actual work would seem a little bit tedious, but depends on how you look at it. Don't you think that just sitting in front of a computer for just a few hours per day and looking at some charts, that in itself, and clicking a mouse, that ain't working? That's the way you do it, right? Is that exciting? If it's not exciting, man, there's something wrong with you, right? But there is something wrong with a lot of people. So anyway, because that is probably the most exciting thing that there could, maybe not the most exciting thing, but let's just say in terms of business, this has to be one of the most exciting things that you could ever learn in your whole life. Compare it to anything you could think of, like, oh, I want to start a software business, or make a business plan that out. So, or any other thing that you might want to do, and then compare it to this. You don't see that this is more exciting. Maybe you just don't get the picture. So, what I was going to show, you see this chart right here. And since I haven't figured out yet how to draw directly on the chart while live streaming, I have to go back here and then try to duplicate that by memory, being the amateur mediocre artist that I am. And what was the shape of that? Let me look at it again. There is a distinct shape, and it kind of looks like that. And one thing that I can tell, and I have been stalking this, looking at these patterns on all time frames and seeing this is part of a bigger pattern on the daily, and this is getting close, or this is the end of the trend for Kiwi pairs on the daily. If this is not the end of the trend on the daily, then what will happen, as I was mentioning before, for 2 days at least, this will go down and form a shape. And then when it does that, I will immediately recognize how to read that shape and go, oh, that's just a correction. The trend is continuing up. I would exit the short and go long again, because then I would see that's what it's doing. Having that ability, the ability to see that and the skill to execute that is an incredibly valuable thing. And well, the proof is in the pudding. What can people do in their live account if they can see this and they understand it? So I hope that today, originally I would have just never gone live and start showing all this stuff for free. But what I found is that learning to trade is kind of difficult, and it takes some time and practice. Even if I show you exactly how I'm trading, and if I go on here right now and I say, here is exactly how I got this amount of increase over the last 6 months, a lot of people still, their minds would just shut off, whatever, and they find some way of canceling it out. But even if I showed you exactly how to do it, well, some of you might be able to take that information and start applying it. And if you do, you probably will still need some guidance to show all the subtleties. Here's what happened. A lot of people, if you say Elliott wave or something like that, people will say, oh, I've seen that Elliott wave stuff. That doesn't work. Well, that's when you know you're talking to an idiot. But it's not that the person is an idiot, because a lot of these people are highly intelligent and they're educated, but they came to a conclusion, but they weren't able to see the additional levels of how this is true. And so I can show you. Can you see there's a trend? There's an end of a trend on this chart. Can you see it? I mean, I would think, is there any way that a person could look at this chart and not see that there's a trend and an end of a trend? Well, I guess if you're not familiar with what a trend is and you haven't been looking at charts, maybe you don't get it. But what happens is, then a person could take another chart and say, well, I don't see one on this chart. And a lot of times what happened was they start counting the waves, and they think that it has to do with counting the waves. And as soon as you think that it has to do with counting the waves, you have missed the point. It doesn't have anything to do with counting the waves. It has to do, as I often mention, like, if you think I'm a human being, and then this is a hand, and you would look at it and go, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, maybe that is a human. Maybe that is a hand. That's not how you do it, right? You just look at something and say, that's a human. You don't have to count their fingers to know that it's a human. So you don't have to count waves to know if something is a trend. And it doesn't really have that much to do with it. In fact, the person who's counting it, they miss the point. So that's why so many people have not been able to master trading using the ability to see what the market is doing and understand it. Whether you call that Elliott wave or chaos theory or support resistance or whatever it is, what I'm talking about is seeing what the market does and understanding it. So I hope that has been helpful. Did a lot of you today have an insight where maybe a bell is going off in your head, and maybe you're starting to see the wheels turning and the ideas are coming to you that you're thinking, maybe it is possible to learn how to trade? Can you see this on this chart? If you can't, maybe there's a way that I could help you to see it. I could tell you what direction to point your eyes. Hopefully you could see it. And soon, if you're looking at the right thing, you would be able to recognize these things. So there are additional levels of how is it that we're able to identify these turning points every day. And for today, I don't really want to go into this complete workshop that I did before, but we will do it again. And that is the 7 things that enable you to identify if the market is turning or not turning. I have another workshop material plan that how do we trade based on how do you identify the end of a correction, because there's different corrections. And I've been studying this for a long time, and when I first started, I couldn't do it at first. And then after a while, I noticed certain things and began to pay attention and put 2 and 2 together and make connections, so that now I can tell if there's an end of a correction, and I can show you how you can tell there's an end of a correction and how you can tell if there's an end of a trend. And there are steps that you have to do. A lot of people, they could take their charts, and I'm seeing this stuff so clear, especially today. I've gotten into some really nice trades, and I'm probably going to remain in those trades for I'm not going to just jump out immediately. I can tell you that, but it's going to be another humongous increase in capital. I can tell you that. And for everyone else who's doing it, it's a humongous increase in capital. The ability to do this, I have recognized, especially I was watching Billy Williams today, and I have a high degree of respect for him. But then when he said, you know, what it was that he was doing, and he's just following this mechanical thing and only getting like 50% winning trades, and I'm thinking, well, I understand what you guys are doing, and that's very awesome, but I kind of came to the conclusion that the way I'm doing it is far superior, and I would like the opportunity to compare apples to apples in accounts or something like that, to see, you know, if somebody is trading this way versus trading the way that is taught in what is termed chaos theory, which a lot of the greatest traders in the world are using. If you Google it and actually are interested to know, how do the greatest traders who ever lived that people know of, how did they get their results? And so if someone is able to identify turns in the market pretty consistently, the way that they would do it is the way that I'm demonstrating here. And there's a lot more that I can demonstrate about that, having gained a lot of experience that I can show people who don't know this, how you can tell subtleties of the shapes and so forth, how you can tell, no, this is going to continue. This is getting ready to turn. Okay, this is turning. That's it. Okay, this is not turning. Don't get in here. You know, I can tell these things by looking at charts, and other people could also do it. It's definitely a learnable skill. It's like reading, learning the alphabet, learning to read. The same as when you went to the first grade and somebody said A, B, C, D, E, you learned it, then you put them together, spelled words. Next thing you know, you're reading words, sentences. Now you can just pick up a book and start reading a book of, you know, any kind of a thing you could imagine. You can just pick up a book and read it, just like that. But before, you had no idea what these letters were. Same thing with trading. And why is it that more people don't know how to trade this way? I wish I knew. I wish I knew. Why is it that more people don't know how to trade this way? And like Bill Williams was saying today, the people who were in the room were professional commodity traders, and he said those people are more intelligent. It's that this is known. They have a higher IQ than the 90% of the rest of the world. 90% of those people will totally fail in trading. But I bet that even the dimmest person could learn to trade if they knew what it was that they were supposed to look at. That's my theory. What do you think? Do you think that maybe even people who aren't super intelligent would learn how to trade if they knew what it was that they were supposed to be seeing? That's my theory, and I'll leave that with you, and you can mull over that and put your comments below whether you agree with that or not. If there is any part of this that you don't understand, let me know. And if you got some powerful insights, this is just the beginning of, well, it's actually just the beginning of us having these live sessions. Let's have it again. Let's just do it again until you learn how to do this. Why not? In fact, we do this every day in our trading group, but our focus is actually trading and doing it while we are seeing the market in real time and learning to read it. So for people who want to trade, that's the most wonderful thing you could even imagine. And being with a group of people who are all doing it together, what could possibly be any better than that? Because when you're trying to do it on your own and you're sitting there by yourself in your room, that's the problem with trading. Is it's just you and a computer, and you don't have any connection with other people. But if you have direct connection with other people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, and they're all supportive of you, and we're all in this together for a common purpose, it's just such a wonderful thing to be able to share and to help each other and to go through this experience together. That's how I see it. How do you see it? Anyway, so next time we're having these right now, we're planning to continue to have these live sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays. As of right now, it's Tuesdays is on Facebook Live. Go to tradingmastermind.com. And by the way, if you'd like to find out what really works in trading, go to tradingmastermind.com, sign up for our free trading course, and that will get you going. You'll start to see what it is that I'm talking about, and I guarantee you will have some amazing insights that you didn't know before. But anyway, Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday is YouTube Live, and Tuesday is Facebook Live, and soon we're going to combine them together if that's not a violation of Facebook's terms. And so we'll see you at the next one, and meanwhile, let me know what you think about all this. Did you have some insights? Think that you can do this now? It's okay if you can't do it right now after this one session, but you keep working at it and you will be able to do it. That's been proven. Okay, best of success to all of you, and I look forward to seeing you the next time.